And he said the real estate market is kind of like the weather. There's no good weather and there's no bad weather. There's just inappropriate clothing choices.
Right. Hey, Sam, didn't I do? I did like the.
Yeah.
I did the rock eye for
Or
one.
like the like ridiculous ones.
So I like that because this personally affects me because in the beginning, that's all I cared about. That's all I cared about was.
I'm confident in what I'm saying.
I love it, and I know I'm going to take more of a deep dive into your content because. From wine country to cottage country, real estate is all about lifestyle. I'm Andrew Perrie, and welcome to That Fine Life. Welcome back to another episode of That Fine Life Pod. I am your host, Andrew Perrie, and this is the podcast where we sit down with our guests and we ask the hard-hitting questions, extremely hard-hitting questions, by the way. So be prepared, Tom. No, I'm just joking. We sit down with sales agents, team leaders, business owners, and we find out what it takes to live that fine life through entrepreneurship, leadership, salesmanship, and all that other jazz. My guest this morning is Tom Storey, and I say this morning because it's 9:30, and you came, an hour and a half to get here. So thank you, Tom Storey. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Last night it was raining pretty hard.
Yeah.
I was like, this morning the roads might be pretty icy, but it was fine. So I'm happy to be here.
You know what? I listened to one of my favorite programs to listen to, and I say program as if I'm 70 years old, is John Oakley from Talk 640.
I've been on his show a few times, actually, many times.
What? I think I might remember that. So I love John Oakley. I've never met him. Called in a bunch of times. You know what? And I was listening to his program yesterday, and he was taking calls from all over, like people in Muskoka and Perrie, and there's snow everywhere. I think who got hit? My buddy in Hastings got hit huge, and then John Oakley's like, "There's nothing here." So
just rain.
Yeah. Well, you know what? So I'm glad because all my staff could barely make it in yesterday. We were supposed to do a Christmas commercial, spread some holiday cheer with Sam and Vision Lux here. But anyways, I'll digress. John Oakley's favorite word, by the way. So Tom, you've got a massive and impressive YouTube story where
There you go.
All right. A pun to start the morning. And the reason why I call it massive is just because the growth in such a short amount of time where, you hear like Mr. Beast, this is like the only YouTube guy I know, and where, their come up stories are 10 years. And so walk me through, when did you get started? When did you take it seriously in YouTube? Feel free to share some analytics with us too to get started.
Sure. So, when I look at the social media platforms, and this answer is talking to real estate agents that work in Canada. Like that would be where I'm coming from here.
Right.
So I look at the different platforms, and I've done this as a live experiment where I'm talking to a room and I go, put up your hand if you're actively posting on Instagram as a real estate agent, and the whole room shoots up their hand. Put up your hand if you post on Facebook, in the whole room. Put up your hand if you post on TikTok, and like half the room, depending on age, is saying that as well. I'm like, put up your hand if you consistently post educational videos about your real estate market on YouTube, and no hand goes up.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so first of all, what I see is an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because there's less competition from all the other apps. And then what had happened to me, so in 2015, I was frustrated in my business in the fact that I felt like on a client experience level, on an understanding of market knowledge level, I was there, but I couldn't get the seat at the kitchen table.
And sorry, how long were you in real estate by then?
A year in.
Okay. Yep. That's typical, right?
This is year 9 for me now.
Nice.
I started at 22, right?
Yeah.
So
and
I
in
was
Toronto.
In Toronto, downtown Toronto, very competitive market.
Yes.
There's 4 million real estate agents. I think it's 70,000, but
yeah.
And I was frustrated, and I actually got an opportunity to interview the CFO at the time of a company called Bomb Bomb.
Yes.
And they were coming out with a new book, and I interviewed him. He kept saying to me, like, he kept bringing up the word visibility, and I kept hearing it and being like, yeah, okay, I get it. You got to be visible in your business, but like, you also got to be so good at what you do. And I kept thinking about it. Something that I'm not sure if I've coined this, but I just say it a lot now, is like visibility beats ability.
Right.
So sometimes when I say it, people will argue back and go, no, it doesn't beat it. You have to know what you're doing. And yeah, damn right, you got to know what you're doing. It just doesn't necessarily come first. So visibility is marketing, and ability is when you get that chance. And I'll tell you how this goes into YouTube.
Yep.
But that was the initial thought, is like, I feel like I'm good at what I do, but not enough people know who I am. So I don't care how good you are at what you do if nobody knows.
Right. So, and I love how you opened up with that, because that's been my mantra for so long. But now I need to get more into the ability side, and which is kind of where you are now. But I like that, because a guy coming from your background and level of success, that means a lot to me, because, it's okay, for one, I help run a very large real estate group. But don't take everything people say in real estate groups to heart, and because there's a lot of negativity in there. And I would always get like, oh, fake it till you make it, oh, vanity metrics, oh, this, that. I'm like, yeah, but look, that helped me grow to where I now just signed 50 new referrals from agents this year. This brought me to a point where I did a $50 million referral directly from Instagram. Now, yes, I need to back it up and move over to YouTube, as you're saying. But I think that there is some truth in the fact that you have to be seen first for people to hear you.
Well, that's it, right? Like, and I think if you look at all the different platforms, it doesn't actually matter which one you choose. You just have to know who your audience is, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of think it's funny in the real estate industry, Instagram specifically, because we all just follow each other.
Yes.
It's just a big, like, everyone like high-fiving each other, liking each other's posts. If you look at most of your posts, 90% of the likes are other realtors.
Yep.
90% of the comments are other realtors.
Right.
Okay, so I recognized this about 2 years ago in my business. So if you ever go to my Instagram and you watch my short form content there, I'm talking to realtors.
Of course.
I'm not saying, hey, real estate agent, listen to this, but I know who my audience is there. So my content for Instagram is way different than it is for YouTube, because I know my YouTube side of things is mostly consumers. And so to go back to the YouTube side of things, I would put out monthly market reports that I started doing in 2015, and it was called the Storey Report. And it was like this boring 2 to 3 minute stats video. And I would just put it out and send it to my database only. And I would send it as my monthly update. I was like, you know what, might as well talk about it. I think there's many benefits for video for real estate agents. Like, I don't have to tell you this, but I think the biggest one that no one talks about is it makes you better at what you do. If you have to talk about something on camera, you better know what you're talking about. So for me, it was like getting the numbers every month, studying them, and knowing exactly what was going on. So then when I'm having these conversations later with clients, I'm like, I've already said this. I've recorded myself saying this. I'm confident in what I'm saying here.
So it's like when, dinner parties, you bump into a client on the street, or some random person that, asks about the market. Oh, it's great. Oh, it's great. Well, why? Or, oh man, it's really tough out there. Well, why? You better have something to back that up.
My favorite thing I've ever heard about the real estate market, I heard this at a conference in Vancouver, and it must have been like 2018. And he said, the real estate market is kind of like the weather. There's no good weather and there's no bad weather. There's just inappropriate clothing choices.
Right.
So like, who is this market right now good for? Well, it's good for cash buyers, right? Because the interest rates haven't affected them if they're buying with cash. It's good for move-up buyers, because where you want to go has come down more than what you currently have. It's not great for people that took a variable rate mortgage. Like, you can look at the different sides of things, but the last 10 years, we would all say it was a good market. Who was a good market for? Sellers.
Yeah.
Now maybe there's an opportunity for a buyer, depending on how long you're going to own it for, right?
Yeah.
But that's just what I think about. And when you're recording yourself, like, you got to know what you're talking about.
Right.
And that's what built up to YouTube. And now it's like, so these are kind of interesting numbers. Like, I ran the numbers for 2022. I have posted, I think it was 63 videos this year on YouTube.
Nice.
So it's not like I'm posting every day or anything, right? But
that's tough.
Averaging one every 4 or 5 days. And of the 62 videos in 2022, we did 450,000 views.
Wow.
So, not crazy. I'm not getting 1 million views a video. I'm getting 5,000 to 8,000 a video, right?
But still very impressive.
Which is good on that platform. I have a call to action at the beginning of all my videos. Before I talk about what I'm going to talk about, I just say, hey, if you want to book an appointment with me, there's a link below. Just choose the time that works for you.
Yeah.
Very casual. It's not like a hard sell. We've booked 85 appointments this year that originated from people that watch me on YouTube.
And where, and these people, are they coming from or have they, began to sprout from your sphere of influence? Or are these just
These are brand new people.
brand new? Oh, fuck.
So
That's amazing.
That's what's kind of cool, right? If I break
I
down,
love that.
if I break down my business, the core of everything, which I'll never change. If I can only choose one thing, it would still be the database and the plan in which we stay in touch with our clients, the repeat, the referral, right?
Yep.
The middle one would be the alliances, which you've done such a great job at, which is realtor referrals, mortgage broker referrals, lawyers. You can go through the list of strategic alliances, right? But then the third bucket for me was brand new business. People that I didn't know they existed, but they reached out to me and wanted to work with me. And once that started happening, I was like, well, this is kind of cool. Because when they reach out and book the appointment, they're like, Tom. I'm like, yeah. They're like, we know you. We watch you. We've been watching you for 6 months. We watch you on our living room TV. And so the trust has already been built, where they're not saying like, hey, Tom, we're interviewing 5 agents.
Yeah.
Get in line. It's like, wow, we can't believe we're talking. It's so silly, right?
Yeah.
But they're like so excited because they've been watching you for a while. But that's the thing. It's not a month later you get all these calls. It's 6 to 8 months later.
And so, to rewind about how you said you open up your videos with book an appointment with me. So that structure, walk us through that structure. So if somebody's looking to, get started on YouTube and they're ready to start doing it consistently, what kind of structure have you found that is working?
So you have to play the game of the algorithm on YouTube, right? Whether you like the silly thumbnails or not, you have to do it. You might have to make a few stupid faces in your video thumbnail to get people to click on it.
Hey, Sam, didn't I do? I did like the.
Yeah,
I did the rock guy for one,
or like the like ridiculous ones. So if I was starting right now, like my structure of a video is I work in the city of Toronto. That's where I sell real estate. So I would go to Google and I'd type in Toronto real estate. Then I would click the news section. And I'm going to have a bunch of terrifying headlines I can choose from, right? So I'm typically going to choose, let's say the headline is Toronto prices down 18% from market peak. Okay. So let's say I take that headline. That is now the title of my video. Okay, so the title's already been written for me, written by a professional whose job is to write headlines.
Right.
So it's already good, right? Then what I'll do is I'll start the video by saying what it is. I don't start by introducing myself right away because I want to grab their attention. Did you know that the city of Toronto is down 18% from the peak of prices? That's what we're going to talk about in today's video. So that's like my statement.
The hook, get
my
them
statement,
in.
right? Then immediately to create engagement, I will say, what do you think? Do you think this is exactly what you thought was going to happen? Is this more or less? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know. So immediately now I'm engaging with the audience.
And they're looking down.
And they're going down the comments and looking at other people's comments. And
the time is running too, which I would say is pretty important for...
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right?
Yeah, the video is still running, right? They're not necessarily pausing it when they're doing that. Then I will have like hey, my name's Tom. I sell real estate here in the city of Toronto. I make educational videos about the market. And then the call to action is very simple. It is, if you watch this video and you picked up even an ounce of value and you want to book an appointment with me or anybody on my team, you can go into the first link in the description. You can book a buyer call, a seller call, or a discovery call to chat about the market. Now, 90% of the calls booked, what do you think they are? They're discovery calls.
Right.
Because a buyer call, a seller call is a commitment.
Yes, of course.
But they book discovery. I have a call with them. And so that's basically, and then the video structure is talk about the article, say what I agree or disagree about it.
So what I really love about this is number one, for those of you who do speaking or you've ever been to a conference or whatever, the speaker, if they're good, will always either open or close with, if you take one thing away from this, I've done my job, or reach out. And I love that because that means that, you're gonna run into people that think they know more than you. You're gonna run into people that, and we get it all the time, right? No, I know the market's going up. I want my house listed at this price. But it's a great way, and I hear leads into that discovery because now they want to check their education and book a call as well. So I really love that. And the cool thing is that the structure is such that you're short, you're sweet, and it's educational as well, where if somebody wants to just reach out, and it's not a seller consult, it's not a buyer consult, it's more of a place that's less pressure.
I will say as well, like of those 80-something appointments that have been booked this year from YouTube, we've helped 26 of them close on properties. So it's been a good business model as well. But I'd say 25 to 30 of those calls are just people that already did something and wanted to say, like, did I do the right thing
Did I
here?
do it right?
And so I know now, does that call make sense for my business at this moment? To take
Right.
not at the moment, but I know if I give them honest advice long term, who do you think they're using on the next transaction?
Right.
So I want to build for the future. So you're going to get a lot of people that just want to pick your brain.
Right.
And it's going to take a lot of time. But if they're calling you, it's because they care about your opinion, and that when the next time that happens in their life, they're going to want to use you.
And so how do you manage all of that overflow of the clients that you don't pick up on the first call?
Well, so when the appointment's booked,
Yeah.
it is booked in through, I use Calendly, right?
Easy.
It's the best app ever.
Yeah.
It talks with my calendar, and the only times they're available are times that I've made available.
Right.
So it's not like an appointment comes in, it's like, oh, I already had these other things, I can't do this.
Right.
It's like, no, it was already a time that was available, and if I booked something else, they couldn't have booked that time.
And now this is kind of not necessarily off topic, but do you have to manually change Calendly, or can you link it into your Google Calendar?
No, it's LinkedIn.
Oh, good. Thank God.
Yeah.
Because I really want to do it, and I'm just nervous
So easy to link
get
it.
started.
So easy to link it. Yeah.
I'll research. I'll Google that. So then, now that you've captured the attention, you've captured the lead information, are those people getting put into your database for new video updates?
Yeah. So they wouldn't go into the initial database list. Like I have a group of about 300-ish people every year that we almost guaranteed get a 20 to 22% return on. We'll sell 60 to 75 properties a year from that group of people because of they're our advocates, right? That's our true. And I know how much money I spend on them. Like, we really treat them well, right? Long past when the transaction's done. If a new person comes in, they don't automatically go into that list, but they go into the next list of like the active people that haven't purchased yet, but you're talking to. But the thing is, you don't even really need to update them on your video list because they're already watching your videos.
They're subscribing.
They're subscribed to your YouTube channel, right?
Interesting.
So
would you think that maybe it would be a better idea to leave them off that list just because you might annoy them?
I mean, I think they're already watching it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not too concerned about that. Like, with those people, when they've reached out, they've already done enough research that they're like, we want to work with you. Like, they've already got them. You know what I mean? They're not necessarily like a lead anymore at that point. Like, I think if you ever have the experience of, and I'm sure you've gotten this, where like, we are told online leads are time wasters. And even if you're amazing at what you do on lead scrubbing, having ISAs, a 2% conversion rate is like phenomenal.
Yeah.
But then I get people calling me on YouTube being like, Tom, I want to work with you and your team.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not what I was taught. It's a totally different type of lead.
So I think, one of the things that had stopped me is just my own personal usage of or how I consume content, really. And I think that is a big mistake, because based on your metrics and, all the broke agent media, broke agent.
Yeah.
Matt Leonetti's coming on. When is that again? I can't remember. Anyways, so about the explosion of YouTube, because there was kind of like a spot there. Maybe it didn't go away,
right,
but like there's definitely a time where I stopped using it altogether. So, what do you have to say about, people waiting on the sidelines about YouTube? I mean, it didn't really go anywhere, did it?
Well, you either have time or money in real estate. When you start your career, you have time to do things.
Yeah.
And when you start building it up, you have some other sources, and then you have some money to put into opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So the way that I look at it is like the first 5 years of my career, I could only afford to run my database plan and have my strategic alliances. I couldn't afford the time involved to film this many YouTube videos or send flyers or do the typical advertising, because it was expensive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I started growing the team, like I'm primarily the listing agent on our team. I'm not the one actively showing the buyers properties anymore. I am the educator, and I run the numbers, and I'll be there for the offers. I'm just not the door opener.
Yep.
So I've taken a lot of my time back. And when you take your time back, you can decide, well, what do you want to do with that time? And I decided to allocate all that time towards activities that would produce more opportunity for our team, which was YouTube, right? But like anything, like I don't think to-do lists work. I think it's a bunch of crap.
Yep.
I think it has to be in your calendar.
Right.
If it's not in your, like, if you run your to-do list, if it's not in your calendar, you're not going to do it.
Right.
So why I'm saying this is because like the biggest thing people struggle with is like, well, I did 3 videos and I got no views. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, well, for the first 6 months, you literally feel like you're talking to a wall.
Yeah.
Because you're like, hey guys, welcome back.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. Like, no one's watching, but it just keeps building.
Right. So, let's talk about the setup then.
Sure.
So are you using like an actual like mirrorless camera, a Sony or a whatever, or are you using a webcam?
I have a Sony A7 III, I believe it's
Right.
called. So my setup is I have a $200 table that I bought from Amazon that I sit at, okay? I have a microphone identical to this sitting in front of me.
Yep.
Then I have 2 lights on each side of me, the studio lights coming from the sides. Then I have a ring light directly in front of me behind the camera. And then the camera has a dummy battery, which means that I don't need to charge the battery in that camera. It just plugs into the wall. On, off, on, off.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing charging batteries. Never have to like delay a video to charge a battery. And then I have my camera becomes my webcam.
Right.
Through something called a cam link. I use a cam link, but it's the same idea.
Yep.
So that becomes my webcam. I personally use this program called Ecamm Live for Mac computers. It's a streaming software where I can see myself on my screen. Yeah. I record everything. So I don't record to a memory card. I record to my computer.
Right.
Audio, video is all in one file. There's no syncing up the voice after. So I've taken away all the friction.
Right.
But the biggest thing out of all of this is I can sit down, I can look at my camera, and I can start talking. There's no setting up my studio.
Right.
Because by the time you do that, you're like,
fuck,
no, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then the editing, we talked off air about a template. Now, are the templates designed, like, I just don't understand it that much. Like, is there, like, can you just throw the camera or the video files in and that automatically
you still gotta do it. Like, listen, I think for most people watching or listening to this, you don't need to be the ones editing your own video. That's the truth. Like, I don't think that's the time you need to be spending.
You can find, I get 100 Instagram messages a day
me too.
for like $30 a
it's
video.
Basically like, hey, your stuff sucks, let us do it, is the messages we get.
That's 15-year-old in India or something who does all my captions actually.
Yeah.
And $30 a video.
There you go.
And 24 hours or less and it's in.
That's it, right? So I don't think you necessarily should be doing it. I edit because it's my creative outlet.
Yeah.
And I like it. And honestly, it takes me 20 minutes per video. So when I say templates, it's more of
a structure.
I know the structure of my videos. I know the music at the beginning, the way I outro it, and then you're always filming in one long shot.
Yeah.
So if you film YouTube videos or any content, do not turn it off and try.
Yeah.
Keep talking.
Keep going.
One long shot. Cut out the stuff where you made mistakes, and then you have a video.
Keep that momentum going.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, shit, I'm just gonna restart it again.
Yeah. Don't restart. Never restart it.
Yeah.
Just film.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about YouTube Shorts. Are you doing YouTube Shorts?
We've been doing it for the podcast channel.
Okay.
They're still a bit of a mystery to me.
Yep.
What I've seen is that their new monetization for it, where they're paying creators for the shorts, is way better than what TikTok is offering.
Right.
So what I think they're trying to do is get all the creators from TikTok over to YouTube because it just makes more sense on a financial basis.
Right.
But it's such hit and miss. Sometimes I'll put one up that I think is gold and it does like 100 views, and then one that I think is silly does like 10,000.
So for us, is that like, I thought like we did these videos with my kids and they were hilarious, killed it on TikTok, killed it on Instagram. And I thought it was going to kill it on YouTube Shorts and like 400, 500 views. I'm like, what the heck? And then I post like educational content from our last podcast guest. It was 5,000 views in
on
24
YouTube?
hours. Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of proves my point that people go to TikTok and they pretty much just go to the For You page and scroll and get fed things. You don't necessarily go to someone you follow and watch all their videos, right?
Right.
So you're being entertained. Now, if I want to learn something, what do I do? How do I do this? How much does it cost to move to Niagara? Whatever the questions are, that's a YouTube video I'm watching.
Right.
So maybe YouTube is more the educational side, and then these other platforms are more the entertainment side.
Interesting. So now for you, would a plan be kind of the YouTube Shorts are more of a teaser to get people engaged to want to check your profile out?
I think that YouTube Shorts should be used to get them to your long form videos.
Are you using any call to actions, or is it just more of
just that they see it? So I don't know if you notice, if you ever open your YouTube app on your phone, sometimes it automatically will take you to shorts. Have you noticed that? People don't notice. It doesn't go to the main page anymore.
Yeah.
Shorts just start playing.
Interesting.
So you can see what they're doing.
I clicked that with my thumb or something.
No, it happens to me all the time. Yeah. So you can see like what YouTube's trying to say. They're saying, we want you to be here.
Right.
So they're probably going to reward creators that go there and do it consistently, right?
Okay.
But if I had to choose one or the other, I'd still do long form.
Now we're going to get into different channels too, but would you suggest creating shorts under your main page of whatever theme that page is, or creating a separate account for stories only?
I think
you might not know yet.
Well, I think the way that it is done now, where it's actually nice looking and they've separated them on your profile, where it used to mush them together, it's fine. But I mean, if you look at a lot of the big creators, whoever it is, they used to have their own channels, just shorts.
Just for shorts.
Now, we'll see. Like, I think mostly to make these decisions, what you do is like anyone that's killing it on YouTube, go to them and see what they're doing. And just try to copy their model, right? Because I don't really know the answers to that yet.
Yeah.
I still think the whole point for me about YouTube is that it's harder to do, so you have less competition because they're longer videos.
Right.
You know, and the shorts you're posting on YouTube are probably the same shorts you're posting on Reels and the same ones you're putting on TikTok. So it's just the same content on every platform.
Right. Now, let's get into the separate pages and channels. So you suggest to have one for, let's just say, listings, one for market updates, and one for special content? Or
well, I think maybe you only need two.
And if you do a podcast, maybe three.
Yeah, one for the podcast. Yeah, but also I know someone that has a massive YouTube following that just puts his podcast on his normal channel and it does amazing. So I don't really know if there's a perfect formula here.
Right.
What I would think of if I'm a consumer of your content, and typically what you put out is your listings. I know I come to this page and I see homes in the Niagara region.
Right.
And then I see a random one of you talking about something else. I'm like, oh, this isn't what I came for.
That's right.
This isn't what I subscribed for. So if I were to do it again, like I don't put listing videos on YouTube. We put most of that just on Instagram.
Yep.
But if I were to do that, I would have a separate channel for all my listings. And then I have a separate channel for education, like educational topics. So I started the podcast on a new channel just to start it fresh. I don't know if it was the right decision, truthfully.
Interesting. Because, I mean, I totally get it, because it makes sense. I mean, when I first hopped on TikTok, what I learned was that if you're doing a variety of different content that isn't specific to maybe your first few videos, then it just really destroys your reach. And because if you come in and you're posting dog videos, then people want to come to your account because it's a dog account. And then, you try to sell lipstick on the fourth video or something. It just doesn't work.
I think TikTok has done an amazing job as a platform. They've disrupted all the big ones.
Yeah.
As a consumer, I don't actually consume a lot anymore. Like I watch the hockey games and stuff, but I don't watch a lot of other people's content, truthfully. I just try to make my own. I'd rather be the creator. As a consumer, TikTok is wonderful.
Yeah,
that's probably the platform that I would go to because it's giving me everything that I want, which is fine, right? Yeah. As a creator, TikTok will feed your ego in a way that feels the dopamine's going to be flying. Because why is it you can post a video on TikTok and does 50,000 views, and the same video on Instagram Reels does 500?
Right.
Why is that? Maybe the way they count the view, maybe the algorithm's just that much more powerful. Maybe it's just a better platform for creators to get your content seen. But I still think, like, if I'm a creator, I'm going to a platform people are going to learn. If I'm trying to sell real estate and sell my knowledge, if I'm selling lipstick or a coffee mug, TikTok's probably perfect.
Yeah. So, okay. So I like that because this personally affects me, because in the beginning, that's all I cared about. That's all I cared about was views, how many comments I could get. Hell, if my video could even get a share, that was great. But what I realized when I do my monthly and yearly profit and loss statements is that, holy shit, I'm spending way too much on marketing that the ROI was zero. And then I find that that's why I don't really invest much of my time or energy into TikTok, because I just feel like most of it does absolutely nothing.
So I would love, I know there's probably someone listening or watching this that is disagreeing with everything I'm saying about TikTok, and I would love to be proved wrong. Honestly, I would love to be. I used to say, because I was kind of like dubbed the video guy in real estate when I got started, because I was young and that was what I was known for. That's what I would speak about, right?
Yeah.
And I used to say, like, if you tell me you do video and you do listing videos, that doesn't count. Because every listing video is like, hello, welcome to this house. Let's go check it out. You know, and it's like the same. But then I met Brad McCallum and I'm like, I'm wrong. He proved me wrong.
Yes.
Because he's amazing at it. And that's he's not just selling the house, but he's building a brand. He's doing everything because he's so good. So if someone's listening or watching this on TikTok that's selling 20, like, I think if you're getting 20 sales a year from a source, you figured that source out.
I agree.
So if you can tell me that and prove me wrong, I'd love to be proved wrong, because then I'll do it. It has to be a calculated decision to build your business,
right? Unless
you just want the ego side of it.
Well, I totally agree, because we've certainly done 20 deals off Instagram, but I feel like, you know, when you feel like you're going stale, do you ever get that on your videos?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
It's tough to come up with things to talk about.
Well, even if you've found things to talk about, do you ever feel like, you know, maybe what you're doing needs to be elevated?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why you look at other people and maybe even go outside the real estate industry to see what people are doing and how you can model off what they're doing. You know, what I think about too is, like, for the consumer, right? The people that we help, the homeowner, how often do they need us? Not that often.
Right.
When they're buying or selling, which mathematically is once every 7 years on average, right?
Right.
So you look at the lifespan of a human being, what percentage of their life do they need a real estate agent?
Right.
Probably like 3% or something, right? Like so 97% of the time when you're putting out your content or sending your market update or doing your whatever, the person on the other side, even if they love you, and you've done a great job for them, they don't care right now.
Right.
They're living their life. But if you give up after 6 months because you didn't get any response, well, guess what? When that 3% comes and you didn't send the update, they found somebody else. So I think that's the mindset, is like, who cares about the 97% when they don't need you? It's just like, how many people are in that 3% of time when you're putting things out and educating them on things they would actually they would care about.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think for somebody like you versus somebody like me, where your content is educational based, where people would start to become reliant on it to an extent, where somebody like me is just kind of doing fucking montages and, you know, really cool, like, stylized
slow motion
shit. Yeah, slow-mo and walking in the snow. But you know, where I was going with that was, like, you know, when I first heard of you, let's just go there.
Sure.
My image of your reputation was that you were the go-to guy for information on Toronto real estate. And that was without me even seeing one video of yours.
Right.
So there's power behind the media. And I think, you know what, maybe it was because you started sharing, or you started getting interviews on, like, actual news outlets.
I've done a lot of news over the last few years.
So how has that, you know, we could talk about how has that benefited your business? How do you find those sources, or do they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I mean, the simple answer of how I found the sources, like the truth behind it, is that the company that I work for has a PR department.
Yep.
And they said, you can talk on video. You know what you're talking about. Would you be interested if this ever came up? And I said, yes.
Yes.
Once you get on the roster, though, most of it now is CTV will just call me directly and say, in 2 hours, are you available for a 5-minute interview on this topic? And I say yes. And I move my schedule.
Say yes every time.
As much as I possibly can. Because I've noticed if you say no 2 times in a row, 3 months go by, they eventually call back, but they go through their roster, right? And they find the next people they bring up. I love doing the media. It's still truly the one thing. Like, I was terrified of public speaking in university. And now, like, my heart doesn't even change. Like, I just feel so normal. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe because I like what I'm talking about. But the news still, like, right before I get the, like, and I'm like, no, you know what you're talking about. Like, it'll be okay, right? Because it's live. And what, you know, they don't really tell you, or people think, they probably think I know what questions they're going to ask. I have no clue what they're going to ask me. Like, here's a topic. Can you come on and talk for 5 minutes on live news?
You know what's crazy is that I heard Devel on it's almost like a roundtable talk that John Oakley does.
Okay.
Oh my God, what is it called? Praise topics worthy of discussion.
Sure.
And I'm listening to Devel, who's Bosley, she's a realtor in Toronto.
She's great.
They're asking like really weird questions. I'm like, what? I'm like, imagine you're a realtor and you're going on the show, because it happened to me, and I'll tell the story in a second, and they just start asking you random questions not real estate related. I think that would totally freak me out. And, you know, you're kind of put into a weird position where one time I did the same thing. It was a round table talk, and they asked me my opinion on what I thought of the sriracha hot sauce shortage. I paused for like 2 seconds. I'm like, what? I'm like, man, I like Frank's Red Hot. My wife might be upset. Next question.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't know where I was going with that, but you know, most of your interviews are probably just about real estate.
Well, they stick to real estate, but even if they ever do, like sometimes the producer wants to talk to you beforehand, just to make sure like you're not going to come on and embarrass the news network, right? Right?
Yeah.
And even then, when they give you some idea, still the news anchor does not follow the script.
Right.
They ask you the first question, and then they're just having a conversation with you, and they're interested, and they ask you what.
So it's kind of like a podcast.
It's exactly like a podcast. So my trick is, regardless of the first question, because I know what the concept's going to be about. Regardless of what the first question they ask me is, I know what my answer is going to be.
Right.
Because I can turn it exactly to what I want to start, and then it just becomes a conversation. And also, what I learned from that is, when they ask you a question, answer it, and then stop talking. Because we as real estate agents talk way too goddamn much. Yeah. And you go in a circle and you're like, wait, what was I talking about? You know, you start thinking it as you're talking. You're like,
yeah, this is too much.
Where am I going?
How am I going to get out of this situation I've done myself in?
I found for the most part, they're not trying to throw you curveballs. Like they answer the question, they've got another one lined up, and it's just a conversation.
No, I like that. And you know, you're short, concise, to the point. They're going to keep asking you back. You know, if you start talking about your own opinions, I guess, unless it's topical, then, you know, you're probably going to be missing out on future opportunities. So what about now you've got these opportunities? How do you leverage the fact that you have now been interviewed on a major news outlet?
So there's a few ways in which I leverage it. I think people would be surprised, actually. Like, I could count on one hand, in my 5 years, I've probably been on the news over 50 times live, right? I've done a lot. How many people call me and say, Tom, I saw you talking on CTV, come sell my house. That is not how this works.
Right.
And I actually kind of like that's not how it works, because it just proves, like, still for something that big, it's typically someone asking their friend, who did you use? Who do you trust? That's typically where it goes. I will say that, just like you, the incoming inbound realtor referrals are a big part of our business. So I'd say doing it has created a lot of credibility within the industry for me. As someone that started young and is still relatively young in the industry, that's certainly helped for referrals coming in. It is in our listing presentation that I do it. And what I'll tell all of our clients too is, I can't go on the news and talk about your house. They don't let me do that. But here's why I think it's an advantage for you, because when I go onto the news, and I tell them what I just told you, I don't know what they're going to ask me.
Yeah.
So I have to be so up to date with the numbers and fundamentally understand what is happening, that I think you, as one of our clients, is going to have a competitive advantage, because most realtors don't have to be in this mindset.
Right.
That's how I turn it into, well, how is it actually, so what? How is it valuable to my seller?
Interesting. Right? So I was at this buyer boot camp in Kitchener, and you know, I love checking out how teams run their training, how teams run their meeting, and I'll just go and sit in on random ones. And we were invited to do Affinity Group, which is an EXP team in Kitchener, and one of the things that their chief operating officer said was that you can look at a mechanic where they need 5,000 hours of apprenticeship to become an official mechanic. I don't know. See, I'm terrible. You could tell I've only done one industry my entire life. And, you know, to be a teacher, you got to go to school, and then you got to do teacher's college for X amount of years and X amount of money. For realtors, you don't have to do that. Yeah, okay, we have a course, we take it, and we pass, we get our license. But then after that, there's no ground hours that we need to implement. You know, doctors have to do 1,000 hours before they move up. So when you're talking to your buyers and sellers about that, it's like, look, how would you feel if, you know, or how much money do you think you could make at your job if you only worked 1 day a week? Right. So where somebody like Tom Storey, who invests so much time and money and energy in research on how to speak or walk the talk, I guess you could say, that, you know, you're actually getting invited to speak on major news outlets. So it's an interesting concept where we're the only industry that everybody runs their business so differently that, you know, that's why we tell people to interview other agents, because by the time you get back to me, you'll understand that we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. One of my good friends, his partner she's in PR, and she works for one of the big companies. And we were having dinner one night, and she was asking me about the media stuff because that's what she does for other industries. She's like, "Where did you go to get your PR training?" And you know, how'd they teach? I'm like, "What do you mean PR training? Like I just show up and talk."
Yeah.
But she was like, could not believe that I have had no official like, and that's not to say I'm necessarily good at it or bad at it or anything. But just like she's like every other industry. Like I even remember, must have been 2018. I went to CP24 when you would go in person.
Yeah.
And I was in the green room, and it was me. Tim Hudak was sitting beside me the first time I met him.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the market just before. And then there was the current police chief of Toronto sitting across from us. And the police chief had someone beside him that was basically like prepping him for the interview. And here's what you're going to say. And you're going to say on these notes. And I'm looking at Tim. I was like, do I need somebody?
Yeah. Was I supposed to bring somebody like that?
But I don't know. I think it's just the confidence. Like, if you know what you're talking about, you can go out there and talk about it and not try to reinvent things. Like, everyone's looking for an opinion on something. And I think, like, I've maybe, for some people, played it too neutral on my YouTube videos and my stuff, where I don't necessarily go really hard on one side or the other, where some people do, and it's great for their business or bad for their business. So...
Oh, well, it's the same thing. It's like where if realtors get involved in politics, most of them are, you know, non-party politics, or like like mayors or councilors or something like that. Just because, what's even the point?
I don't know.
Unless you wanted to brand yourself as red or white or red or blue, right?
That's not something I'm super interested in.
Me either.
Yeah.
So, okay, now this might be just kind of like a weird question, but did you design your website to kind of be that appearance of an educational or media outlet?
Yeah. So
is there a thought behind that?
So what I thought about when we were building that site was, what are the things people actually care about, or if they haven't really heard about us, when they come to the site, what are they going to see, right? So initially, you see 3 things that slide, and it's like a picture of me on stage talking to a crowd. One that lets you book an appointment, and one that lets you meet the team. So those are the things I think. Okay. You know, he's acknowledged in the industry, he does some media stuff, and he runs a team, right? And then you go down, and I think the first thing that pops up is 2 videos. One that is a meet the team video, and one that is like a combination of all my media stuff put into like 2 minutes, or like all these clips cut up, right? So again, it's validating, okay, if they're going to keep inviting him on, he maybe kind of knows what he's doing, right? And as you go down, you have the listings, so you can see what the listings are, and then it's the Instagram profile. So that's kind of how I built it. Like, you can't even go to my website and search properties.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's just really a placeholder in which I'm trying to get you to my YouTube videos or back to my Instagram.
I love that, because when I logged on, I felt like it was almost like a news outlet style of a website. There's obviously amazing branding within it, but it just gave me that feeling. So, all right, now in Toronto, what do you think, you know, because you're a numbers guy, what do you think we're going to be seeing going into the new year?
Well, I think what I can almost guarantee is that
you're going to sell some houses.
Well, I'm not worried. There's never been a month where no homes sell, right? Like, homes are always selling regardless of the market. Yeah, there's going to be less homes that are selling in times that are uncertain. I don't think you can. Well, it makes total sense. Like, why are buyers not buying right now? Because they're nervous, because rates keep going up, and you don't want to buy when prices are going down. Like, it makes sense, right? And if you pick up, well, no one's really picking up a newspaper, but if you open up your phone and you see the news, you're like, maybe I'm going to wait, right?
Yeah.
So I think most of the damage has already been done. That's my personal opinion. I could be totally wrong. I think the bulk of it's already happened. I think they're at the end of their rate hiking, and there might be another one in January to get the overnight to 4.5, which is a massive change from the beginning of this year.
Right.
But what you're going to see in January, February, March, April of next year is the news headlines are going to be worse than they've ever been, because every time the news headlines come out, it's a year-over-year comparison.
Right.
And January,
that's a really, really good point.
January, February, March this year were insane.
Yeah.
And it's going to look bad compared to that. But really, at least in Toronto, like the last 4 months, the market hasn't gone up or down. It's just hovered.
Just kind of,
just hovered. Sales volume's way down.
Yeah.
But the prices haven't.
The prices haven't really.
So I think the damage has been done. Maybe there's more to come here. Maybe I'm totally wrong. But I feel like now that we know maybe the rates are like going to stick where they are for a sec, be like, okay, this is what it is now. Now at least I understand.
It just takes them a little bit to get their head.
Because before it was like changing so rapidly. How could you make sense of anything? We were in a transitioning market, and really, it's going to take 12 months to 18 months for us to even understand the impact of the rate hikes we've already had. It's not enough time has passed.
And by that time, I think when all the foreclosures start happening again, I mean, if that happens, I don't know. But I mean, it was a big part of real estate before I got in the industry.
Right.
Tax sales, all that kind of stuff. Where I think by that time, there's going to be so many people, beginner investors, novice investors, experienced investors that are all going to be lined up. And I think that jolt of those first 60 days when those properties start coming back available is that it's going to spark another kind of buyer-driven market. Maybe not as crazy as we saw over the last couple of years.
I hope not, actually.
No, that was the worst. I mean, we did 80% of our business January and February, early March.
Yeah, makes
for the
sense.
entire year.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's interesting.
I look at the fundamentals of a real estate market, right? And the first fundamental is interest rates. How much money can people borrow, and what rate is it going to be?
Yeah.
Then you've got immigration, so population growth,
Right.
and then you've got unemployment. Okay, so if you look at those three, interest rates right now, still for a 5-year fixed or a variable right now, it's under 6%.
Right.
I
Which
actually
is historically good.
still pretty good. Like I made a video in like January this year saying like this is why the market could crash.
Right.
I was like, I think if rates go over 6%, I'm not feeling that great about things.
Right.
Like I think if that's the rate everyone's getting, that could be an issue. I think if they say under 6, so let's put a question mark on rates at the moment, because again, it's too early, right?
It's too early.
The second is immigration. I'll put a big check mark there. We have a ton of immigration coming into Canada. And in fact, lots of them are already here. They're just not personal. They're just not PRs yet. They're not, sorry, they're PRs. They're not citizens yet.
Yeah. They're going to school here,
And then the third one is unemployment, which so far is holding. We think if we're going into a recession next year, it should come down a bit in like not a good way. But I don't like. I just spoke with an economist about this, and he made me feel kind of better about it. Leaving the conversation. So why I'm saying all this is like, if one's a question mark, one's really good, and one is another question mark. It's like if two are strong, the market will be balanced out.
Yeah.
If all three are strong, prices go up. If all three are weak, that's when we're in trouble. But immigration's super strong, so.
Wasn't it 1.5 million over the next couple of years for all of Canada, and then Ontario?
Where are they coming? They're coming to Ontario.
Of course.
Where's the bulk of them coming to?
Of course,
Ontario.
Yeah, I think the estimation was at least 800,000.
Right, and unless we are truly going to build more properties. Now, at the beginning, they're not going to come here and just buy expensive homes, right? They're going to rent for a little bit, and maybe only 50% of them actually buy homes in the next 5 years. But like, where are these homes?
Yeah.
We already don't have enough.
That's right. And, I don't want to get too political, but at least with urban boundaries kind of getting stretched. But anyways, that's for another podcast.
Yeah.
All right, man. I think that's about it. I appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having
me. Okay. I always like, plug it. Let's see. Where can people find you?
Instagram, the Story Team. That's the best place to send me a message.
First for your
well, if they're gonna send me a message, have a question for me, go to Instagram and DM me. Yeah, if you want educational content about the Toronto market on a weekly basis, go to YouTube, type in my name, you'll find it. And I got a podcast called the Tom Storey Show. Very original name.
Yeah.
It's picking up some steam. We're getting some pretty crazy guests. I'd love to have you on soon.
That'd be great.
Yeah, you can check out there for every Sunday at 9 a.m. You'll get some weekend content.
Nice. I love it. And I know I'm going to take more of a deep dive into your content because I really want to start work. I know everybody fucking says that December, January. Really want to get YouTube. It's my year. But you know, with any luck it is.
Dude, what you've already done in your business, YouTube should be like easy for you.
Yeah.
Like I really think like if you could just allocate the time and like, so give me like another minute here, right?
Let's do it.
Okay, so what does a consumer care about when they're moving to Niagara? What are the questions they have?
Mainly lifestyle questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 5 best things to do when you first move to Niagara.
Yep.
Moving to Niagara, 5 mistakes to avoid. These are video titles in my head, right?
Yes.
Like the pros and cons of living in Niagara.
Yeah.
Right? The 5 worst things about living in Niagara, because that's going to get way more clicks. And tell the truth.
Yeah.
Like I just made that video about Toronto. I'm like, it's really goddamn cold. Traffic sucks. You know, our sports teams disappoint us. You know, like, but I give the truth, and you're gonna win people over when you're just totally honest with them.
Yeah.
Where no place is perfect.
Of course.
There's good things about living here and bad things about living here, and that's the content the consumer that's moving here cares about. Not here's the 5 reasons why you should hire me as a realtor, because they're not searching that.
They don't care.
Yeah. So I'll end it with that. Yeah.
All right. Beauty. Thanks, buddy.
All right,
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.